Khalid Al-Faleh, widely seen as the most powerful man in global oil and de facto leader of OPEC, is out of a job. The announcement from King Salman of Saudi Arabia has the fingerprints of his son, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, all over it. The man, known simply by his initials, MBS, seems determined to take possession of the kingdom's crown jewel, oil giant Saudi Aramco, where Al-Faleh was also chairman until a week ago. That role went to Yasser Al-Rumayyan, head of the Saudi Sovereign Fund and close confidant of the Crown Prince. Breaking with Saudi tradition, MBS put in a member of the royal family as the new energy minister, his older half-brother, Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman. He's no stranger to OPEC, having served under Al-Faleh and his predecessor, Ali Al-Naimi. Those two spent more than 4 decades in the kingdom's oil sector, and both were unceremoniously removed by the hard-charging Crown Prince.
I think it's going to be a positive notion that to the market that a personality like Prince Abdulaziz is taking it with all of that history of OPEC that he has.
The leadership change is the latest in a string of developments to prepare Aramco to go public, expected to be the world's biggest IPO, a cause sources said Al-Faleh never really supported, especially with a lofty target of $2 trillion. The IPO is central to bin Salman's Vision 2030 to diversify the economy and try to build the world's largest sovereign fund. The question many are asking after taking down a highly respected global player, can the two hand-picked allies deliver on the aspirations of the Crown Prince?
Early in the day, the decision by 3 senior Scottish judges essentially saying that Boris Johnson's proroguing of Parliament was unlawful, that he had, in effect, lied to the Queen about his reason for doing it. That will go to the Supreme Court in London Tuesday next week. In the meantime, the document Operation Yellowhammer, which was the government's document for its preparation of a no-deal Brexit, the government had been ordered to release that. They did that shortly before the deadline. It makes difficult and troubling reading, particularly about food and medicine supplies coming into the UK. It points to the border crossing, the channel crossing between England and France in the southeast of England as being a choke point, saying that trucks are not ready for the customs inspections that they will have on the other side, that this means there will be delays for trucks crossing over into France, back from France as well, that could last a day and a half to 2.5 days. That's how long it could take to cross the border. That 3/4 of Britain's medical supplies come in across that border, across the channel, and that some of those medicines are perishable, that the government cannot stockpile all the necessary medicines, and that therefore there will be shortages of medicines if there is a no-deal Brexit. They also say that there will be a shortage of some perishable food goods. They say that that will potentially drive up the price of foods, that this could affect the elderly, particularly this will come into effect prior to Christmas, a time where food products generally, there's more food products being bought and sold. Also saying that, and this is perhaps a plus for the government here, that the electricity and gas supplies for people in their houses will not be affected, that they will continue to be available. However, they go on to say that over time, the price of electricity will likely rise, that this could have economic and political consequences that will play negatively, if you will, for the country. That could affect businesses. That's one of the conclusions. So a lot to digest for the public in that report. Also, the government had been expected and had been called in Parliament to produce the documentation that had gone into their decision-making to prorogue Parliament. Government has not done that before the deadline. They say they won't be doing that because that's not normal precedence, they say. The opposition likely is going to criticise the government again, having got now in the public domain all these details in Operation Yellowhammer. Of course, the government not in session, so the opposition cannot question the government and the Prime Minister about precisely what they're doing. Now some of the more precise details are known. Nick Robertson, CNN, London.
This message in a bottle helped save a family that got trapped on their hiking trip. So Curtis Whitson says he took his family on a backpacking trip in California, but strong water currents somehow trapped them. So they found this old green water bottle. They carved the word help on it, put a note inside, and threw it down the waterfall. Curtis says it was just around midnight that a rescue chopper arrived. 2 other hikers had found their note. The family doesn't know who the two other hikers are. They would like to be able to thank them. Wow, glad you guys are okay.
My lungs were that of a 70-year-old's.
Adam Hergenritter started vaping when he was 16. A year and a half later, he landed in the intensive care unit. His doctor said because of vaping.
I had the shivers and I couldn't control it, so I would just randomly convulge, and it was really scary. I knew it wasn't a stroke, but it felt like that because I couldn't control myself.
Initially, Adam thought it was the stomach flu, but after days of nausea and vomiting, he ended up at Advocate Condell Medical Center in Libertyville, Illinois.
To know that my son's lungs, 18 years old, healthy, an athlete, typical 18-year-old boy, to be laying in a bed and not being able to breathe, and it's every parent's nightmare.
Adam first started vaping nicotine and then went on to marijuana.
So I first started vaping just to fit in because everyone else was doing it.
By the time he got to the hospital, he was severely ill.
If his mom had not brought him to the hospital within the next 2 to 3 days, his breathing could have worsened to the point that he could have died if he didn't seek medical care.
Adam is one of more than 450 possible cases of vaping-related illnesses around the country, according to the CDC. But Adam is also one of the lucky ones. There have been 6 deaths in California, Illinois, Indiana, Minnesota, Oregon, and Kansas. And the biggest mystery? No one knows exactly what ingredients in e-cigarettes are causing the problems.
And you can see the hazy white opacity throughout his lungs on both sides. So although we don't know for sure the exact nature of what's causing the opacity, it's assumed that related to his vaping.
Until they figure it out, public health officials say don't vape. In a statement, the American Medical Association saying they urge the public to avoid the use of e-cigarette products. And Adam will continue to speak out in hopes that others will learn from him.
If one person stops, hopefully everyone else stops.